much money off, but like somebody out there has to be transparent, like just to keep the world honest. Like I know I'm never going to be the biggest reselling channel out there, but I know if somebody comes in, they're actually going to get a real picture of like how much money you can make in a month, how many hours it's going to take. Because like John said, you see all the videos, they're fake typing on their computers on Instagram, and it's like you could be a billionaire like me. It's just like the same thing over and over again.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment podcast. This week, we got the used book guy, Mike, six-figure bookseller. He didn't want us to say that, but we said it anyway. So what is going on? Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate coming on to the podcast. You do watch and listen to basically every single episode. You guys have quite the array of guests. So to be a book person on the podcast, I'm kind of, I'm happy about it. I'm excited to be here today.
Oh yeah,
good. Tell us a little bit about the business. I know John probably knows a lot, but you give me a little bit on the background, that kind of thing, because I just found out about you from John.
So I sell used media full time. I started with books, and believe it or not, as much as I don't want to give John all the credit for my business, but I came on his video when I worked full time at CVS as a store manager, and it was just a weird one that showed up like full time income selling books in central Pennsylvania. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm in central Pennsylvania and I'm miserable working at CVS. So he actually did an interview with Avery, Romer the Romer, and that video kind of turned me on to reselling on Amazon in general because I did eBay for a while. So I gave it a shot, and 5 years later, here we are. This is all I do. I do more than books. I do CDs, DVDs, cassettes, and books. So it's kind of like the correct name should be the used media guy, but I just roll with the used book guy because that's kind of where everybody starts. And yeah, I do about 10K in sales every single month. For those that don't know,
if you want the exact spreadsheet I have used to sell over $3 million on Amazon, how I track my buys, how I track my best sources, where I put links to my favorite sites. I have a spreadsheet that I've spent the last 2-3 years building. If you want access to it, it is absolutely free. Just go to the free resources section down below this video. 100% free. Now let's get back to the podcast.
In media, a 50-50 split is kind of a good spot to be in. Yeah. So if I do $10,000 in sales in a month on Amazon pays me out $5,000 before your overhead cost of software and your buy cost for materials. But yeah, that's kind of how I got started. Thanks to John recording an interview like this 5-6 years ago. It's crazy to think that.
Yeah, is it high margin business? I assume it is.
Yes. I mean, Basically, if I'm buying in bulk, I'm paying 20 cents for a CD or DVD. And some of these, if you sell a CD or DVD on Amazon for $18, you take home $10. So if you pay 20 cents, you sell a CD or DVD for 18, you put $10 into your bank account. So the margins are just stupid. That's why a lot of people start with it and then kind of graduate on to other things, kind of like John's story of going on to OA and other types of businesses on Amazon.
Yeah. John, you probably got some good questions to start off here because I don't really understand how much of this business works, I guess, or the whole starting point of it. So, but what kind do you want to get into here?
Yeah, so
I am in the same thrift stores.
Go ahead,
John.
I think it froze up a little bit. That's why I did that.
Go ahead.
Believe it or not, like I could have went over to John's place and we could have recorded this next to each other. We live about 25 minutes from each other, and I thrift in all the same stores that John used to thrift before he got his bulk book warehouse and everything like that. So it's pretty crazy, kind of just almost following copycat what he did and getting the same kind of results in this business. But it's basically you're relying on thrift stores until you get bulk sources, and that's kind of the downfall of this business, right? Like this morning, I was out at thrift stores scanning media with a little Bluetooth scanner, and the phone app just tells you whether or not you're going to buy it based off how profitable an item is. So a lot of it's kind of like monotonous. And honestly, if it was harder than it had to be, like if I had to be out in thrift stores 40, 50 hours a week, I probably would pivot 100%. But now that I've been doing this for years and I have the sources and I have the relationships and it's as easy as it is for me, I have no problem with continuing to do the business, but I just couldn't see myself in a thrift store for 40, 50 hours a week. That's just too much of a grind. Like at that point, was it even better for me to leave CVS and go do my own business if it's going to suck that much? Like at some point, you're better off just getting an actual job than doing this business.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that was always
100%.
the
I was
worst
watching
part.
some of your stuff.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
No, I was gonna say that's
I
always the
think it's
worst
lagging.
part. Oh, about scaling the book side of it and the media, just going to the thrift stores, having to deal with that, kind of figuring out what the like kind of cadence is for that store. I feel like you're always like missing out if you're not out there. It's just super annoying. And kind of one of the reasons why I went the bulk route. But then with the bulk route, you have a whole other plethora of problems that you have to deal with as well.
Anyways, I was watching some of your stuff anyways, and I saw that you were talking about how resellers do all this work for like not that much more money than like the normal thing, and you kind of touched on that there. Do you think that's the kind of a cycle people fall into of like, I'm going to quit my job to get more freedom, but instead they work 70 hours a week and make less than their job?
100%. You hit it right on the head, right? We think about this as, oh, I'm going to be a reseller. And you see a video on YouTube where somebody finds, a gold bar at the Goodwill bins. And you're like, oh, I'm next. Like, I'm going to the Goodwill bins. And then you realize you got a house full of crap that's never going to sell, especially especially in the realm of eBay, right? You can be successful, but I say it all the time, like selling on eBay, part-time, full-time is way too much work for what a 95% of the resellers on that platform are getting back out of it. I mean, as a reseller, we should be making so much money. Like I always think about this, why are resellers so broke? When we have the margins we have, when we have the opportunities we have, it makes no sense for people that resell to have no money in their bank accounts. It's a struggle for me. And I guess it's different because I worked a lot of crappy jobs growing up. So I'm like, this is not hard work. Even if I do got to go to the thrift store and scan 10,000 books, CDs, DVDs, like it beats working, at a warehouse or lifting boxes. But if you're not making money, then there's no point. You got the whole point of reselling is to make money. None of us here are doing this to collect items or just be a miniature warehouse and store stuff around. But that's unfortunately, I mean, you hit it right on the head, Drew. A lot of resellers don't make money, and I wouldn't do this if I didn't make money. I don't do it just for the fun of it. Yeah, at times it's fun, but treat it like a business at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you were talking earlier about how you only work 20 hours a week. I guess you kind of can't get around scanning a bunch of items. So did it come from you getting connections to where you don't have to scan as much, or can you just walk into a place and kind of know what you're looking at?
Know what I'm looking at, but you still like the only way you're going to find more is if you scan more items. Like the only differentiator between me and another media seller is how much fresh inventory are they scanning. So if you have more fresh inventory in your area and you're actually out there scanning it, of course you're going to make more than the person that's only got a few thrift stores. But like it is a lot of it's relationship building. Back in, when I first started, it was kind of it wasn't as wild west as it was when Amazon, was first around. You could buy every single book and sell every single book, but you could get away with going in a store. You leave with a shopping cart full. Well, them days are gone, and people still have the mentality of, well, I can just go in any thrift store and make money. And honestly, that's not the case. So the only way to combat that is to get the stuff before it goes to the thrift store. All the thrift stores look up everything. Goodwill's on Amazon, Salvation Army, Saver. So how can we combat them getting the inventory? Well, instead of the person taking it to the thrift store to donate, why can't you go to them and take the stuff from them before it goes to the thrift store? That's kind of my mindset, is to have those relationships. And when you're buying stuff from somebody else's like house, usually the quality is always better. You're going to pay a lot less. Yeah, things still slip through the cracks at thrift stores, but you gotta start having conversations. Like I put my name out everywhere. I got flyers, business cards. That's the only way you're going to survive in this game. No matter what category you sell in, if you're going to rely on thrift stores, sooner or later you're going to get burned. Like Goodwills, I don't even go in Goodwills anymore because the prices are so high and they scan everything. So any Goodwill I go into is 100% a waste of my time. So if I just relied on Goodwills only, I'd be out of business, right? Like I would have no business because all I did was rely on the Goodwill. And a lot of people do this. They just rely on that one Goodwill bin store, right? I go to the same Goodwill bins 5 days a week. Well, I'll tell you what, we used to have three around us, me and John, and two of them closed down. And I got one that's 5 minutes away from me, and I don't even go there because it's all junk. It's crazy to me that resellers don't make the money we make, and we're scared to tell people what we do. Like, what's wrong with telling people that you have you sell used books online to, support yourself and your family? I don't know. Like, I tell everybody what I do, and it's never been like received in a negative way.
Yeah, that Goodwill by you is by far the worst Goodwill. I think I've ever been to. I think I went there maybe 2 or 3 times. Every once in a while, I'd go back, and I'm like, this place is garbage. And the Goodwill bins is the worst. A funny story about the Goodwill bins. I remember going in there once, and this is when I first started reselling. And I go in there. It was like snowing or something, so no one was there. And I like found, I don't know, 5 or 10 books. Like, oh man, this place is amazing. I can't believe this. And then I go in the next day, and there's a guy there, and he has a shopping cart just like full of books. And I was like, my heart like sunk. I was like, shit, like he got all the books or whatever. So I was like, I didn't think anything about it. And I went back like the next day, and I see the same guy, and he has like a cart full of books, and he's like takes all the books he thinks is profitable, puts it in the cart, then scans them and like tosses them back in. And I was like, what an asshole. Like, I hate this guy. But in my head when I first started, I was like, man, he like cleaned up here. And then the bins were just, oh my god, it's so annoying. I remember going there once. I was waiting for like 30, 40 minutes for them to like take like, so if you've never been there, it's like basically just bins full of crap, really, and books. And like they'll wheel out a bin, and before they wheel it out, they have like almost like a comforter over it, so you can't see what's in it. And then like it's literally like roped off. Like there's like caution tape, like you can't do anything. And then like they'll like wheel it out, and they won't tell you when they're opening it. I was waiting once for like half hour, 40 minutes, and I was starving. I was like, I can't wait anymore. Like they'll probably like just open it. Like I'm gonna run down the street real quick. I think to like McDonald's or something. And like I come back, and like it's open, and there's like 30, 40, 50 people just. I was like, forget it. Like I'm never coming back here again.
We should send Drew to one of the bins and have him find some profitable books. It's chaos, man. Like, and think about that, right? Like, imagine any of us, we go to the bins every day for 10 hours. Well, what kind of quality of life are we really living here, right? I think the whole point of reselling is like to make money so you can be financially free and kind of do what you want, right? If you have something come up, a health concern, or you got to take care of something, you want to go on vacation, you don't need approval from anybody. So the whole reason we resell is to make money and be able to kind of get our life back, because that was the main reason I left CBS. I'm salary, it's 45 hours, but salary, it's never what they say it is. It's always, 10, 20 hours plus. So that was a big point. I'm like, all right, well, if I can make the same amount of money, now I'm making a lot more than I was making, and I get my time back. That's the whole point we do it. What's the point of just sitting at the Goodwill bins 5 days a week? Like, that would be so miserable.
Yeah, we had very few times, right when I got probably when COVID was happening, when it was tough to buy inventory all the time. I would just kind of buy a bunch and then just go to Goodwills all day. I'm like, I don't know how people do this. I never got into the books, but I would just try to find like random trinkets and shit. It was like just always a way. One time I found a board game that was worth like $250, and then I'm like, okay, I'm not going back after this. That took way too much work for one profitable thing. But I do respect the people that do it. It's a grind.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a damn near manual labor. You're going to all those places. It's crazy.
That's how you get sucked in, though. You found that one $250 board game. You're like, oh man, like, oh, the next store, the next store. And that's kind of what I did. Like, I was remember doing like the books. I'm like, oh man, like when I first started, it's like, oh, the next logical move would be like when I scan books, then to figure out like what clothing is profitable, because like that's what else they sell, and like clothes was terrible. Like I hated clothes, like going through trying to figure it out. I was like, nah, like I don't need, or like going through the store looking for other stuff. I'm just like, I'm sticking to books and media.
I think it's a little bit different now than it was when I started, right? I think a lot of people almost felt like they had to start with used books when they like created their Amazon account. I think today's kind of a completely different, mindset around it. I think you can just completely skip selling media altogether. I think there's a lot easier ways to make money on Amazon, and I think all of the
Yeah.
knowledge is out there for you to not even have to worry about relying on thrift stores and doing eBay to Amazon, doing online arbitrage. I think the days of everybody starting in books is dead and gone, and it's a
Yeah.
grind, like Drew was saying. Like, I'm on the third floor, so every damn piece of inventory I source has to come all the way up the steps, get boxed, go all the way back down the steps. And even if I'm not on the third floor, there's a lot easier ways to make money and carrying a lot lighter things, because boxes of books are not light. It's a pain in the ass to kind of deal with.
So why have you stuck with the model so long? That was what going to be actually one of my first questions is how scalable is it? But it sounds like you don't even really want to scale it up. You kind of like where it's at.
Yeah, I like where it's at. I'll get like a few more kind of backdoor sources where the inventory is fresh. And I always tell everybody, like, why? Because I get all the time. Why don't you move on to, what John's doing, online arbitrage? Well, I don't have to. For the little bit of time I put in and the money I make, like, I got to a point where I have no debt, right? Like, I don't have no monthly payments coming out of anything besides my storage unit. So the five grand I make after my buy cost maybe knocks me down to like 4,700 in a month. Like, I can easily live off that when I have no bills besides just my rent. And I can save money. I can put money into retirement. I've got a down payment for a house, just waiting to find something. So for me, I'm a-okay where I'm at with how much time I put into business versus how much I'm getting at. Now, if you live in California, 5 grand ain't going to get you nowhere, right? Like, it's just not going to work. You need to do something else. It's different for everybody, but for me, where I'm at, it doesn't have to be any harder than it is for me currently. And I am working on getting a few more like bigger, better relationships, but what I got going on now, it's a perfect fit for me.
Yeah, I think people would be surprised as well too of like you hear that you like you saying that and people are like, oh well, that's just such little amount compared to these guys on social media. But what people like really need to understand is you making $4,700 is equivalent to somebody making like 20K, 15K with OA because they don't see the money. Like you do not have money. You're always in debt. You always have inventory. Your inventory is 20 cents. Like you're never going to get in a cash flow situation when you're buying shit for 20 cents. You're getting like actual profit. I think that's like a myth that everybody puts out there. They're like the OA and the wholesale where it's like, well, you make all this money. It's like, okay, yeah, but you also put up 95% of your capital every time. Like you're putting yourself in a tough situation. And when one thing goes bad, you're in trouble. If something goes bad for you, you have money saved up. You don't have a ton of money in inventory. Like it's just, to me, that's a way more appealing thing for people to start. But just because of that, because I think a lot of people don't know how to manage that cash flow and to manage that risk like that.
A lot of people, thing is, anybody can be a reseller. Anybody can come along today, create an account and say, yeah, I'm a reseller and I can start my little business. But when it comes down to things like books, taxes, actual cash flow, how much you're making versus you're spending, then all of a sudden we go from everybody's a reseller to nobody's making money real quick, because there's a lot of business. You need a lot of business sense at the end of the day. It's not just going to the thrift store and listing something. Like, what are you keeping back for taxes? What are your write-offs for the year? And that's where all resellers fail, because you think you just go to the thrift stores, you find items for $5, you can sell for 30, and then that's the end of it. And that's literally just the tiniest part of being successful in this.
Yep. It's like how it's marketed, man. To me, like the more I'm out of Amazon. I don't know if you know much about me, but I did OA $2 million a year and I quit last year. And I think the way now I see it is just so disingenuously marketed like that. Like it's like you go to a YouTube video and there's green numbers flying around. Like, look, this thing makes me $40. It's like, dude, it's like not like that at all. Like when that $40 is really like $7, and then if it gets returned, that guy just lost money. That kind of stuff, it's just really tough. But to a beginner, it's just like amazing when they see that shit. But to me, it's so disingenuous.
Yeah, I feel like that is the hard part now too. The new trend on Instagram is now they'll do like one of those like kind of like where there's like B-roll. They'll be like, oh, if you want to make 10 grand, all you need to do is find one product that makes $25 and sell it 65 times or whatever the math is. And you're like, you know how hard it is to find a product that makes $25 that sells like 65 times? Like, but like the average person is probably like, oh, like I probably could like find that. Like, how hard could that be?
There's a lot that really doesn't get kind of said about, what actually goes into the business. That's why, like, I still do the YouTube, right? Like we talked about it before, like the time I put into it, like I don't even make more than like what I pay my editor at the end of the day. It's not like YouTube you're going to make a bunch of money off, but like somebody out there has to be transparent, like just to keep the world honest. Like I know I'm never going to be the biggest reselling channel out there, but I know if somebody comes in, they're actually going to get a real picture of like how much money you can make in a month, how many hours it's going to take. Because like John said, you see all the videos, they're fake typing on their computers on Instagram, and it's like, you could be a billionaire like me. It's just like the same thing over and over again.
Well, dude, to be honest, you have 6,500, 7K subscribers. So it's not like you're a small channel. I mean, that's not too bad, especially for this space and your niche specifically. That's like a way smaller one, right?
Yeah, I mean, talking over 1,000 videos. I mean, it's that's like 6 subscribers a video. It ain't much when we really start breaking it down.
So what do you think are some of the biggest things that like you see in, I guess, maybe the mismarketing of it, or kind of what kind of truths are you or what myths are you busting, I guess?
You start selling on Amazon today, you are not going to make any kind of money, at least for 3 months minimum, even if it's books where you're paying 20 cents. Because we think about this. You open your account, you go through the process, you source the items, you send in the items. Items take a while to check in, you sell your item. It's not like eBay where they're going to pay you in a few days. Amazon's going to hold this money for your account level reserves for 4 weeks. Brand new, probably longer in some cases. So you send in that first shipment, your stuff sells maybe in a month. You got to wait another month to actually get the payout from that. By then you got subscription fees. It all adds up. The idea that you could start Amazon today and be making any type of money in the first month is just ludicrous. 2 months, you're still kind of ludicrous. 3 months is more realistic, but that's not the way it's pitched. Honestly, it's like, go online today, or go to your local, grocery outlet and source items and send it in and make money today. Your money's going to be tied up for a long time. And a lot of people jump in with money they don't have. And all of a sudden, that $1,000 you had on that credit card, or that $1,000 you had in saving, is sitting there for 8 to 12 weeks, and you ain't getting it back. Like, you're dead in the water before you even started, but you don't know better because it's not pitched that way. They don't tell you, hey, put $1 today to get, $10 in 8 weeks. Like, nobody in their right mind would be like, yeah, I'm going to start doing this business today.
Yeah, it's true. It doesn't sound appealing when you say it like that. I guess that's why people don't say that.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's not that long. Like, it really, but like how it's marketed is terribly long. But compared to other businesses, it can take, some of these companies, and they don't make profit for years and years and years. So it is quick relatively, but there's no point in saying it's like instant or whatever. Unless you're just trying to sell people bullshit, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's a problem. Anybody can be a reseller. That means anybody can be a content reselling creator. So that means anybody can have a course. So that means, I had a coaching call with somebody, and they paid like $10,000 for like a book selling course, and I was like,
book selling course?
Yes. Well, it was the course, and then in addition, they were having like one-on-one coaching behind the scenes. Now, I'll be the first person to tell you, being involved in groups and having mentors that can help you in the right way, 100% will 10x your business overnight, right? That's the whole reason I have my group on YouTube. You have your group as well, John. It's there's communities out there that are really good, but the problem is, for every one good community, there's like 10 fraud ones out there that charge ridiculous, exuberant amounts. And so this guy has a one-on-one with me. I didn't even know how he found me, because it wasn't even through YouTube. It's like, I paid these guys, upwards of $10,000. Like, what's your sales look like? So I've been doing this for 3 months, and I sold $170. I'm like, this is the reality of kind of the reason me and John and this podcast exists, is to keep it real with people, so they have a real expectation when it comes to no matter what Amazon business they want to start, the reality of it, what goes into every single aspect. You guys have had on people all types of different businesses, and everybody here says it like it is. And like Drew said, maybe it's not exciting when I tell you you're not going to make money for 2 months. Like, it's not, I'm not going to be like, oh, no one's going to run to my channel and be like, yeah, let me sign up for this. But keeping it real, because we've all experienced, and we've seen people kind of experience the same thing. That's the whole reason we do this.
Yeah, and the reason it's important is because if you come into this stuff with the wrong expectations, you'll get wrecked.
If you're still listening to the podcast at this point, you are into it and a fan, and we really appreciate that. If you could do us a solid and like, subscribe, and do all that stuff, it really helps the podcast grow. And secondly, if you could tag us on Instagram, just take a picture of what part you are at the podcast. If you like it, tell us what you think about it. Tag me at Side Hustle Experiment, and I will definitely share it. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Way faster. Like, if I come into something knowing it's going to take me a while to be successful with it. It's way easier to get through the hard times of it and the hard moments, I think, when you're like, okay, this is like reasonable what I'm going through. But it's not like, damn, I just saw some 18-year-old making all this money. I'm like, I know that that's like not the case. So whenever you go to something new, it's a lot easier. So this stuff is like really, really important. I think setting people's expectations, like it saves like their mental health. I know there's just so many people out there that aren't aware of kind of like different niches of things. And I know they're just like sitting in bed at night, like, damn, I'm 4K in debt. I just heard this. Why am I not succeeding like that? It's like, dude, it's okay. Like that, you went down a rough path there, which is just, that's kind of how everybody starts. You find the wrong people most of the time because they get the most reach. It's just the way it works.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there. And like and it is funny now that I have this school community. I mean, if you want to sign up, it's only $15 a month. I want to keep it super affordable so people can like get in there, learn, and just, I love everyone in the group, but like some of the DMs I get and like, or some of the stuff that's posted in the school community, I'm like, where did you hear that? Like, that's like the worst piece of advice. Like, where did that even come from? Like people talking about all this crazy nonsense, or like people getting section 3s. Like, I didn't like the whole section 3 thing. Like, that wasn't even like a thing like a year ago or whatever. And I'm just like, what is going on? And just a ton of bad information out there. And it's just hard to like, cause like you said, like to get the good information out there, you're going to have to like say stuff that's not popular and that people don't really want to hear. And it's not exciting. And that makes it hard.
People will always find the answer they're looking for. So if I'm miserable and my OA business sucks, I'm going to keep searching for other people complaining about how OA sucks. You're always going to find the answer you're looking for, whether it's in a good light or a bad light. And the problem is a lot of the reach is negative in the reselling community, right? Like if John makes a video saying he's quitting like OA, like it'll get tens of thousands of views, right? But if he talks about how 5 steps to make more money doing OA, then it's not a big thing. So the doom and gloom is real in the community, but a lot of it is, hey, it's just straightforward. I don't follow a lot of content creators that I used to, because you kind of can start to realize like who the people are that are speaking the truth and like are transparent in their whole business together. And that's why, I even decided, hey, I'll come on this podcast because I know you two guys shoot it straight, and there's not enough straight shooters out there, in my opinion, especially when it comes to the podcast world of reselling overall, and especially online arbitrage, because you said it earlier, it's just a lot of fluff out there that makes it seem like, oh, well, I'm doing 10K and I'm 12 years old and I drive a Lamborghini. Like it's tough to get through that, I guess, for somebody that's brand new.
Yeah, it's very tough. Well, take a little pivot here. I was watching something you talked about, churning your inventory fast. And I guess it kind of ties into all this stuff. It keeps your cash flow up, keeps you your speed of the stuff moving. You're like, I don't care if I'm making $1 on the thing or whatever. Like if I'm not making money, if it's sitting there, which I love that mentality. So can you just expand a bit more on that, like trying to get through stuff fast?
It's one of the big things I know people probably like talk crap behind my back about is like repricers, right? So everybody has a repricer if you sell on Amazon. Well, big thing, a lot of people say, well, don't undercut the buy box. And it's like, just match the buy box, right? Me and John are selling the same thing. Why am I going to undercut John? Well, my mentality from day one has been Amazon cares about the lowest price. So what am I going to be? The lowest price. I'm going to undercut every single listing by a penny, and I will get more sales than somebody that matches the buy box. And even to this day, people still give me crap for it. I'm like, at the end of the day, I want my stuff to sell. I'm not storing stuff in Amazon. It's money sitting there. Even if it is 20 cents, even if it is $1 a piece, you got 5,000 items sitting there. That money's not doing nothing for you, right? At some point, you're better off just getting what you paid back out of it, because we're smarter today than we were when we sent in that initial item. So we can redeploy that 20 cents, $1 better today than we could when we sent the item a month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago.
Yep. I love that, man. I heard a quote recently. It was like, money today is much more valuable than money, X amount of time from now. That makes a lot of sense to me too. So what, do you have a general strategy aside from just undercut the shit out of everything? Or
Nope.
Is it just let it go 1 cent and then just rip it from there?
I'll tank every single listing I'm on down to my minimum, which is like $12. So any single book, CD, DVD I send in, we'll go to a penny battle until it gets down to $12. If you got a minimum lower than me, then you win. But I'll still sit at $12 all day long, and I got no shame in the game because even at $12 on a CD or DVD, I'm still gonna make like $5 or $6 on a book. I'll probably only make like $2, but still I get my money back out and I keep moving.
I think it's even more important with books too, because for books, like it depends on what book you sell, but some of them you're only going to get maybe in a year 4 chances to be that sale. It's like a million rank book, like the thing's selling maybe 4, 8 times max a year. So you have to be definitely more aggressive when you're repricing the books as well.
Yeah, it's all one-offs, right? So it's not like you have a quantity, which is going to help you maybe win the buy box, or maybe a seasonal item, or a brand new item where Amazon's not on the list. And we're just selling used media over here, and people still give me crap for penny undercut. And I'm just like, I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day. Like, if I told everybody here, if you reduced your stuff by 1 penny and it would sell, every single reseller on Amazon would say, I'll do that right now, without a question of doubt. So why don't we all do it? Because if me and John are on the listing, I undercut a penny, John undercuts me by a penny, and then we get down to $12, and then neither of us make, the $30 or $40 maybe that item was actually worth, because me and John are greedy and we're just going to have a repricing battle. But that's kind of the reality. You're not going to win every single time, every single product you sell on Amazon, regardless of the business. But just get your money back out. And sometimes you're going to lose money, you're going to break even, but you just keep on going. You can't think about the losses or the ones you broke even on.
Do you apply it for every single product? Is there ever maybe a one-off you find that's more expensive, higher ROI, that you're like, you have more of an attachment to, or you just like, I'm playing it like this no matter what?
Every single item, dude, I'll run it to the bottom. Even when I find random, like, I'll sell board games every while. I sent in like a graphics card not that long ago. Like, I'll tank every listing by a penny 20 times a day until I ain't got nothing left.
How fast is what's your buy box percentage? Does it say?
No, because it's used products. So like the buy box percentage on Seller Central, it doesn't like portray the used buy box win percentage, versus if I was just selling like new items, then you would get an accurate percentage.
Yeah. I'm sure. Do you know sell-through rate?
My sell-through rate's right around like 19% a month.
That's a lot, I think. Right? Is that a lot?
Yeah. It's about in line where you kind of really want to be at like 20%, but 19 you take it. I mean, and that's another thing, right? So if we buy 100 items today, the first month they get checked in, we're only selling 20% of those theoretically, right? So you got 80% of your inventory that's going to take longer than a month to sell and get you all back to the cash flow, where all of a sudden when you got thousands of items in inventory, even if you haven't paid much, you're only selling a percentage of those items. And a lot of people nowadays, I think it was different maybe when I started, people were more like, I don't know, greedy with their money, or maybe, I don't know. But nowadays it's like people want to jump in and they're like, I got 1,000, I got $5,000, I got $10,000. I'm like, listen, pump the brakes, like just grow slow and smart at the beginning. And that's how you're going to survive in this. If you just, in any Amazon business, whether it's books, whether it's online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, if you go out your first week and spend $5,000, like you have no idea really what you're doing. Like you're guaranteed to make mistakes when you start.
Yep, 100%. Have you ever even tried online arbitrage?
No, but I mean, I feel 100% confident. Like if I had to switch over, I could, because I know the content's out there, and it goes back to having relationships. Like I'll just go sit outside John's house until he shows me what he does, and
yeah, that would work.
I'm confident though that there is enough good content out there around that whole business model that it would be growing pains, right? You're never going to be perfect when you start. You're going to lose on a lot of things, but I think in this game, if you have a business sense, regardless of the category you're selling in, you can be successful. Like if I decided just to stop on Amazon, kind of like you did, and I decided to open up hot dog stands, like I feel like I still make money doing the hot dog stands versus Amazon. It's kind of like a business sense and like hustle muscle that you have as an entrepreneur, where no matter what kind of business I'm going to throw you in, you're going to crush it. You're going to figure out a way to make it work.
Yep. 100%. There's definitely some principles you can take, and for what I've noticed a lot from like a risk standpoint and like a risk mitigation standpoint, like just mindset of like it's gonna come eventually. Because if you already make it one, the hardest part is just making it work once. Like after that, it's like it can work. And most people just have a mental block of this shit just doesn't even work. But if you can get through that mental block, yeah, you can make a hot dog stand work, for example.
Yeah, I think about that all the time with spending money and investing in courses and coaching and stuff like that. Like I remember being like almost paranoid, like spending like $1,000, in a month on books. Now you spend $2,000-3,000 in a day and not even think about it. So I think you just have to like grow with, you just grow, you learn. And like you said with the hot dog stands, right? Like, it comes back down to like you'd probably like your book business. You have to build relationships. Like you got to find stuff for cheap. Like you got to market yourself. Like free book pickups. Like you just put the pieces in different scenarios, and yeah, you'd probably be right. You'd probably be fine.
You need capital at the end of the day to start any type of business on Amazon, whether it's books, whether it's retail arbitrage, whether it's online arbitrage, whether you're doing private label. It's going to take money, and you're never going to win with scared money. It's just you got to bet on yourself, and if you're not willing to do the work for yourself, then it ain't going to come to you ever. Honestly, like that's just the real truth. If you're not willing to go out there and work for yourself and your family and provide for yourself and your family, then reselling ain't it for you. No kind of entrepreneurship business is going to work for you. If you're not motivated, if I'm not motivated to get up and go to the thrift stores and scan the stuff for my personal self, it's not like I'm working for John. You're never going to be motivated. And there's days where it sucks. Like today, I really didn't want to go out. I know I had the podcast. I'm like on a time lock. I went to this new place and they don't have their prices online. And I go in and like everything's like exuberant amounts of prices. I drove 45 minutes one way. So I'm like,
Oh.
well, you know what? A plus. I tried, but some people, like Drew said, that's it. They're done. They're defeated after that one bad experience. And the reality is, if you just hang on and stick it out and continue to learn and get in some of these groups, reach out. We live in a world where everybody's on social media. I could send either of you a DM about anything related to online arbitrage, and I'm going to get a straight answer. This didn't always exist. This wasn't a thing all the time. I think back when I started, yeah, there were some YouTubers, but all the information wasn't out there. A lot of it was like gatekept because people were scared that everybody was going to come in and kind of blow up the whole scene. Nowadays, you can message anybody, no matter how big or small they are.
Yeah, it's such like a abundance of information nowadays. It's crazy. It's like obviously the competitions went up, but there's never been a better time to do any of this stuff. Like there's just anything you want to find, you can find it somewhere, which is crazy. Because if you think back, it wasn't even that long ago, just a few years ago. It's like so hard to get any information. I remember looking up online arbitrage stuff back in even 2020. And I'm like, this stuff all sucks. I'm better than these people doing this stuff. And then nowadays, you look that up, there's like 1,000 YouTube videos uploaded a day about it, which it is just crazy.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really good point about work ethic and like going to the thrift stores and like having bad stuff happen. Like I remember some of those days like so much, just driving an hour, going to like the first three thrift stores, you find like 5 books, you're like in your head, you're like, damn it, like this is terrible. But having like the wherewithal to like go to the next 3 or 4. Like I always felt like when I did these long road trips, like it'd be 8 to 10 stores usually, like a whole day trip. On those tough days, it only took like one, and sometimes it happened on the fifth store, and you're like, wow, like this is amazing. You score like 30-40 books, and maybe that's all, or it happens on the first store, and you're like, this is going to be an amazing trip, and then like the next couple stores suck. But like you have to go to all 8 to 10 stores. Like that's the moral of the story. You got to put in the full day's work because one of those stores is going to have more, or you're going to catch the restock or whatever it is, and then it makes it a good trip. Like I don't really think I had a lot of trips where I wasn't able to pull like 80 to 100 books per like a day. But it took going to all the goddamn stores to get it.
You got to start at the furthest store because, like John said, if you start at the closest store and that store sucks, you turn it around and you're going right back home. You're not going to continue down the road. So start at the furthest store in the route. Track everything. We were talking about tracking your business expenses, your profit loss statements. Track your sources, right? Like I don't know what it looks like for OA sellers, right? Maybe you guys have certain websites that are better, different deals like that. But as somebody that relies on thrift stores, well, if I know XYZ thrift store sucks, I can only go there once every 2 months when they have fresh inventory. That type of tracking needs to exist, even in just a thrifting model. You still should be tracking everything. So, okay, it's time to go out it's time to go out to Lancaster to see what they got out there because it's been 3 weeks. I haven't been there in 3 weeks. It seems like they turn their inventory over every 3 weeks. Track that. If you're not going to pay attention to the little things in this game, you're never going to get ahead.
Lancaster is definitely one of my favorite places to source. Outside of Mechanicsburg, I feel like it was good. I don't know if it's still good, but you got a lot of good stores out there.
They're not as good as they used to be. Overall, the thrift stores around us, John, they have gone down considerably
Really?
in quality and quantity. Just it's a lot of garbage. You kind of got to just work your way through. That's why, being in the back rooms of some of these thrift stores that I have and library sales, like they library sales, like one of the big things. I do library sales. Well, you go look and it says not picked over inventory, fresh inventory. Well, I'm here to tell you, like, that's a lie because the libraries I work with, I scan everything before the sales even open to the general public, like before it's even. So like there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, and it comes off as like almost cheating, but that's how you're going to win, right? We got a business here, we got to make money. So if you can have an advantage over somebody, and just from a conversation and telling people what you do and providing the service to a library, I mean, the connections I have are like forever, unless the place closed, unless the thrift store closes down or the library's closed down. I have that connection for the rest of my life if I want it. Just from a conversation. Like, it's crazy to me that we don't take advantage of the opportunities we have. Like you said, there's no time better than today to get involved in this, right? There's so much money to be made no matter what business model you have on Amazon. If you're willing to put in the time and the effort and understand what it takes to be successful doing that type of business.
Yep. 100%. So what do you think the qualities went down like that? Is there like a theory you have of quality? I've heard too the prices have went up in a lot of those places, which I'm just assuming that's just the awareness of the online market. But is there anything else that plays into that?
No, like I've had basically conversations with every thrift store I go in, right? I don't know what it is. I even used to have I used to have a Better World Books, maybe John knows of them. They're like a huge
Yeah.
book company, and they used to have donation bins all around. So you could go take your books and donate them for free. Well, even they have done away with 90% of their book donation bins. So like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like the market I'm in here in central Pennsylvania where people just like they read garbage fiction books, so I can't get like any of the good nonfiction or like stuff that makes sense or that's worth anything. It's just a scanning game. You just have to be willing to scan a lot and get to people's houses, get to people's estate sales before it's open to the public, and have days of relying on thrift stores. I think they're numbered. It might not be this year, it might not be in 3, 5 years, but I do think prices are going up. Everybody's selling online. You can go look on a listing of a book, and there'll be 20 different Goodwills selling that same exact book. So at least in my market where you rely on these thrift stores, if they all start scanning in the back room, guess what? You're not going to get close to anything that's worth anything. Yeah, some will slip through, but it's different. And that's kind of the appeal to like an online arbitrage business is you have the internet or like eBay to Amazon. You have eBay. There's always going to be inventory out there to buy. You just have to find it versus thrift stores. John said, you can walk in a thrift store like I did today. I drove 45 minutes. I left with 0 items. Like that's the possibility of relying on thrift stores. You could go into 10 thrift stores tomorrow and leave with nothing in every single 10 of them.
I think the inventory has went down too, because once I got into bulk, I really learned kind of like how thrift stores really make their money. Because most thrift stores, because I always used to walk into the thrift store, I'm like, how the hell do they even make money? Like, this store is humongous. There seems like there's crap everywhere. People checking out are checking out with like 5 or 6 items each. Like, you're trolling in your head, you're like, maybe they're making like, they have employees everywhere. And then when I did the bulk books and started buying in bulk, it turns out all these thrift stores, they sell the clothing in bulk, they sell the books in bulk, everything is out the back door. So what's in the thrift store is like kind of like extra money for them. Like, it's insane. And I remember trying to buy direct from a thrift store, and I bought from them, and I was like, the books, I think they were paying like 8 cents a pound. And I was like, they're just not worth 8 cents a pound. Could you do 5? And he's like, we have trailers. We're getting 5 cents from someone else. And like, to work with you, it's so much more work. So I think on other hands, like, I feel like thrift stores hate books and media because you got to stack it. It's heavy. I'm guessing most of them are in Gaylords or like little boxes, so you got to stack it nice. So in their head, they're like, you know what? Let's just get 5 cents for this and just put out like the easy books, the light books, like so that knocks out like your textbooks or your higher end books. And the majority of people walking in there probably want those kind of books anyway because they're not reselling them.
Yeah, it's the big thing with that is resellers start out thrifting. Most of them go to thrift stores, and we don't realize like that's basically the last stop before the landfill, no matter what category you sell in. Like the thrift stores, it's basically the end of the road for that item. Like it's finally made it to its graveyard where it's going to die in the Goodwill shelves for 6 months. And we just think that it's reliable because there's thrift stores everywhere. So we think we can just rely solely on walking into a thrift store and leaving with the cart full. It's not realistic anymore. I don't think, no matter what category. I mean, Goodwills, the prices are insane at Goodwills now. Like any single T-shirt, whether it's a beat up, stained up shirt, it's gonna cost you like $6, $7. Any book's gonna cost you $3 minimum. It used to be
Really?
50 cents. Yeah, dude. Every single book now at
Damn.
Goodwill is at least $2.99. Like that never existed 3 years ago. So like, what are
That's
you gonna do?
crazy. It used to be like most stores is like 50-cent paperback, $1 hardback. The most egregious was Sally, and it was like $2 hardback, $1 paperback. They never
Days are
ran
gone.
sales. That's crazy.
Days are gone. You got to adapt in this business. And that's another thing. No matter what, model you have is there's always going to be times where you have to pivot. Maybe it's the type of items you're selling. Maybe it's, where you're getting your stuff from. You can't just be stuck in your ways. You can't just be like, well, I've been doing it this way for 35 years, so I'm never going to change, even though the platform wants me to change, even though my business bottom line wants me to change. I'm just too stubborn to even think about making a change.
I saw you trashing Goodwill in a YouTube video, maybe. Well, what's your? You seem like you have a bit of a beef with the Goodwill and Salvation Army. Which the way you explained it, I didn't know it worked like this. You were saying like the I don't know. You can explain this to me. Like they make a lot of money, but they don't really do anything with it or whatever.
So basically, Drew's got his box of old junk he's going to donate to his Goodwill. So he thinks to himself, well, hey, I'm going to donate this to my local Goodwill, and I'll help somebody in the community. Well, the way Goodwill works now is you donate that box, it goes on a truck that goes to a distribution center. So they every donation they get now goes to the distribution center to be looked up, and then it's redeployed across their stores. So you think you're helping your local community, but you don't know it's all going to get scanned, looked up online, and then the junk will get sent back out to the stores randomly in basically Gaylord's pallets of books, shoes, clothing, all that type of stuff. And the problem is they say, hey, 98 cents of every dollar goes to programs. Well, I've never seen Goodwill run any kind of program around me, any kind of donation where they're helping somebody out in the news. And I mean, now they even play the ads when I'm in there scanning. We now accept car donations. Like it's crazy to me. Like, is there a used Goodwill car lot somewhere in this country? Like, can you imagine? There probably is. And they're to the point now where they have no shame in their game. I posted on Instagram like 3 weeks ago. They were selling an empty tall boy Red Bull can for $4.99. Like, it's nuts. Like $4.99. I mean, maybe it was full at one point and somebody drank it that was shopping around, but like the shelves are a mess. Like the Goodwills, I don't know. Maybe it used to be, maybe it used to be better, but it's a
They're the
cesspool
dirtiest,
now.
the worst help. The place was always trashed, like garbage everywhere. I hated going to them. Worst stickers on the books.
It's yeah, I think, a lot of money goes upstream in that business. I don't think a lot of it goes to their actual people in the stores. And unfortunately, I mean, it's good that they do employ people that, are special needs, but I do feel like they take advantage of a lot of these guys because I'm in some Goodwills and I know the younger guys that work there that have, special needs. And I just feel bad for them because I know they're not treating them right. And I know they sit here and they ask you to round up every single transaction. Like, that money's not going to a raise for this guy that's in here 5 days a week and he has this disability or that disability. And that's kind of what irritates me about we act like we're a huge charity, but where's the receipts? Where's the proof that you're donating this money? Where is it going at the end of the day? And we'll never know.
Yeah, because I thought the whole point of the Goodwill type of model was to give people with low income ability to like buy clothes and buy shoes. But dude, $7 a t-shirt, like go to Walmart. Walmart can't be more expensive than that, and it's brand new. Yeah, that's crazy. I remember going there when I was like a kid, and it was like $1 a t-shirt, $2 a t-shirt, or whatever. You get a nice polo for like $3 or $4. I haven't been in one in so long. It's crazy to hear it's like $6, $7, and then $3 for a book. That's crazy too.
Yep, it's nuts. I seen the one had a VCR DVD combo player. I forget. I think it was either like $75 or like $125. I'm just like, who in their right mind? Like, you get this for nothing too, and that's another thing. I understand you have overhead, but you also have huge online e-commerce stores. You got your own selling platform. You're selling all these platforms. So the overhead argument kind of goes out the window with me because all of your inventory is free.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the best business model ever. Everybody give me, you give me free shit and I'll sell it on the internet. Yeah, that is crazy. I'm gonna have to do some research. Maybe you can take down the Goodwill and Salvation Armies.
Like, it's funny too because like I found a lot of this out by talking to one of the managers at the location because he seen me scanning and he's like, dude, you're wasting your time here, right? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, elaborate. And it was just some young guy, he's just new manager at this location over by John at Camp Hill. And it's just like, yeah, we scan everything. All the donations we get go to the warehouse. They scan it all there. Now, and like they don't do no pricing in store anymore, so it all comes from the distribution center price. So if it doesn't have a sticker, they can't sell it. It's got to go back to the warehouse, go through the whole process again. It's become a huge racket, and I know they're making lots of money. And honestly, I rarely go to them because it's all picked over. Yeah, I'll get a straggler here or there, but it's just a waste of my time relying on them or even going in there more than once a month.
I mean, that was nice of him to say that because, I mean, some of those stores have tons of books, so you just waste a ton of time.
You do any garage sales or estate sales? This seems like kind of up that alley.
Not really. I rely more on like my Craigslist posts, my Nextdoor posts, than I do actually going out to garage sales and flea markets. I'm sure you could find a lot. Like if I were to go, I would just be the guy that would walk up to the dude with all the DVDs and be like, "Yo, I'll give you $100. I'll just take everything right now." Like I went cherry pick at one of these things. The same with a garage sale. Most people aren't going to drag their books out, so you'd have to be like, "Hey, you got any books?" And then all of a sudden, they got a bookcase full, and you're just like, "I'll give you $20 for everything." And a lot of it is like service based. So this business is like you provide a service of cleaning out people's heavy books if they don't want to lift. Like I've done plenty of book pickups, and they're never boxed up nice and neat for you out the door, right? They're always in the basement on the third floor, and you got to lug them out. So a lot of it is people just want the stuff gone. You just have to put in the sweat equity to get the money back out. And that's another thing that comes with this business is there's a lot of, heavy lifting when you're going to sell books. Even if it's just doing a free pickup, you got to load up the car. You got to unload the car. You got to scan everything. Whatever's not good, you got to put back in the car. You got to get rid of that somewhere. There's a lot of work that really doesn't, get shown out there. And it doesn't even really matter what kind of business you have. I know the OA guys are like, I got a prep center. I never even see the things I sell, and it sounds all glorious, but like you have to track all of that on the back end. So the trade-off is me lifting the books is John has to have a spreadsheet of when it gets delivered to the prep center. Did the prep center receive everything? Is there stuff missing? Did they send it to Amazon in a timely manner? Every business has different aspects, and if you just fall asleep on one of them, it can sink your business pretty quick.
Yeah, I feel like that is probably one of the things that isn't talked about in the book selling community because I still follow along, but it's kind of like these free pickups are talked about as the greatest thing ever. But I would say for every maybe 10 free pickups, maybe one is a home run, or that's how it was when I was doing it. Probably 5 are okay, and the other 4 are just total. You just wasted a whole day, and you just did labor for a whole day. And one of the biggest problems is, especially too, if you're thrifting, like how to get rid of the books, because you don't want to pollute your own area where you sourced. So you don't want to dump the books down there. I see people like mark them and stuff. That just seems like a lot of work too, and super annoying. So kind of like running that balance of like, how am I going to get rid of these? I mean, you talked about like the Better World book bins or whatever. They're like shivering up. There's like one by me, and I would like get rid of it if I was them. People just put trash outside of it. Like all the books are always like waterlogged. It's absolutely insane what they do. And yeah, I mean that is probably the worst part. And plus dealing with people, like just hey, like I have, 100 books. Well, they have like 1,000 books and they're not boxed up. Like you're walking through their house, or I've even tried to do it where like a paper book, and it just gets awkward. Like they're watching you scan. Oh, how much does this sell for? How much? And then it just kind of like falls apart, and you're just like, oh, like I should have just like made an offer on all these books and just like walk away with them. But yeah, you have to be really creative in getting rid of this stuff.
So the main reason I do it is just because what you said. Like next thing you know, I got dirty diapers in the book bins. I got people living in the book bins. Like and
Yeah.
then it's just like it's absolute chaos. And yeah, all those bins that used to be over by you, like they're gone now. They don't exist. It's the business is you have to be super streamlined and super focused on just going through as many items and getting rid of as many items as you can any way you can if you're going to do media, because the only way you're going to make decent money is if you have thousands of items in inventory. The only way you get thousands of items is if you scan tens of thousands of items. So you got to have a plan for all of this. And if you don't, you're just going to get overwhelmed. Like if I just had a place full of old crappy books and it stinks like old books here, like you're going to be like, I'm done with this. And then what happens? Me or John come along to do the free book pickup, and now we get passed on all the junk. It's like a never ending circle. The books never die. Like at some point, you just got to get rid of the things.
Burn the books. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, listen, if your county lets you, I mean, I wouldn't be against it if the county lets you. For me, I can only put out like so many bags of trash, or I would just have the whole sidewalk lined with duds. Because John knows probably this. Like, I go to my libraries, I'll do a pick up full carload. I get back, I got 90% of it's not worth anything. Well, what am I gonna do with this? So I can post it out there like free books. People don't even want this stuff for free.
Yeah.
Like you can't even give it away. So you got to have a plan to move everything that makes sense, because you can't sink all your time in doing stuff that isn't making your business money. You got to be making money at the end of the day, or it's just a waste of time. And I think another thing when it comes to like money I wanted to talk about is this mindset that you always have to be growing in an Amazon business. I know I kind of hit on it earlier, like yeah, I'm doing 10K in sales every single month, but like the idea of me like having a warehouse, like moving in where John's warehouse was and getting tractor trailers full, like that doesn't appeal to me at all. I think to myself, okay, how much more can I ramp this up? But what's going to be the expense when it comes to my personal time? Am I still going to make the same, hourly profit per hour if I say I'm going to start doing this 40 hours a week? These are questions you have to ask yourself. And I just think all the time, it's like, well, Mike, when are you going to do 20K? When are you going to do 30K? When are you going to do 40K? I think you find that middle ground where you're happy with your business, the results you're getting, and it's 100% a-okay to just be like, hey, I'm going to be the 10K in sales a month used book guy. And as long as you can live with that, care. I mean, at the end of the day, Drew could say, hey, Mike, you're only making 10K, you're a loser. Well, cool, guys, I appreciate it, but this is what I'm going to do. This is fine by me. But we get in the mentality of social media and everything where it's like, if I'm not posting, look at my percentage. I'm up 10,000% over last year. Like then you don't feel like you're making traction. But in reality, you are growing your bank account. You are growing your retirement funds.
Yeah, it's just irrelevant what everybody
Yeah.
else does. I just put out a tweet about it. It was like why competition can like kill you in this business, and like just a big deep one of like if you pay too much attention to this stuff, it like gets in your head bad. And I noticed that when I stopped buying inventory and I just watched my percentage go down like ridiculous amounts, like minus 50, minus 80. I think this month I'm probably down minus 95%. And like I look at the red number and now I just laugh at it. But I remember when I first started, I'm like, oh man, like duh, I'm gonna be down. I didn't buy anything, but it's definitely not a healthy relationship to have. If it's not green, I'm
Yeah.
just like in trouble. And it's like that your mental health can like shift. There would be days when let's say I was doing like 180K a month. I'd do like 6K a day. If I was under 6K, I'd be like, oh, I'm just such a loser. Like this is bad. I'm collapsing. And it's like you cannot let your mental health weigh out. Like let that. It's irrelevant to who you are, and you can't let those things intertwine. So you seem like you have a super healthy relationship
Yeah.
with it. I feel like that message should definitely get out there more.
I agree 100%. And that's kind of like, it's taken me a while, but I'm like not actively growing my business. Like, I'm happy with the size it is now. I'm looking at other different things, doing an Amazon influencer program, and just kind of like doing what makes the most sense for me. And right now, it's like running a decently sized OA business, doing an influencer program, helping other people in the school community. So I think, yeah, you eventually kind of like find your way. But yeah, like it is sometimes you're like, damn, like I could definitely relate to the sales. Like you have like an off sourcing month, you're like, shit, I'm going out of business. And then it's just like, no, like it's just February and it kind of sucks for everyone. And then before you know it, you're like halfway through the year and Q4 is right around the corner. And it's just like back to business as usual.
It's tough for the booksellers out there because like you guys are dumping 10K into a single product, and we're out here with 10K months thinking we're the hottest thing since sliced bread, and you're just like, yeah, I just spent 10K this morning at Panera. I'm like, oh wow, thanks John. I just seen this first thing. I woke up on Instagram. John's probably spending 10K on inventory, but as long as you're a-okay with what you got going on, that's
Yeah.
all that matters at the end. That's the big thing. If it's working for you, the business is making sense, you're getting what you want out of it, then who cares what John's doing? Who cares what Drew's doing? Just focus on your business and your results. That's how you'll just continue to just keep going and keep making the money and eventually start making more money.
Yep. And I will say this is if anybody's watching this late in the pod, if you like this message, this you really should get this into your head for any listener. When I say these big numbers like 180K and like you hear all these other people on social media and then you hear the booksellers who say these small numbers, I can say from talking to many of the booksellers and guys like that and then many of the OA guys, I've never talked to a bookseller that's actually broke or that's not making money.
Yeah.
But I talked to a ton of OA sellers who are broke. So just because someone's putting up big numbers and they have big debt and they do spend 10K, that does not mean that they're making a bunch of money. Like that, it seems like that, and they can trick themselves into it. But I've talked to many, many guys who have gone on podcasts and bragged about their shit. And I talked to them behind the scenes, and they're like, dead broke. Like, I can only spend 2K today, man. I maxed out on all my credit cards. I don't have any money. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? You're running an online arbitrage business. You can't be that much in debt. So, yeah, it's good that you share that message, but I think you also give yourself some credit because I think that you'd be surprised if talked to enough OA guys how many don't actually even make any money.
For sure. I think the thing with me is, like the 20 hours I put in, like that's nothing. 20 hours a week ain't shit. At the end of the day, like I go to thrift stores 2 days a week, and then I pack everything up on the weekend, which is like half a day, depending on how much I find. Like for how little I work, like shit, my dollar per hour profit is like forget CVS store manager $20 an hour. Like I'm making closer to $45 in profit an hour. But the thing is, I think to myself, say for example, I wanted to do 30 hours a week. What that would mean for me is I got to drive further because if I go to the same sources more often, I'm not going to find more items because it's still the same
Yeah.
sources. So I think you have to come to that realization of, okay, what's the limit of this business model that I have? Sure, I probably could do 20K a month if I wanted to. It's just going to take a lot more time. Then all of a sudden you're in this 50, 60 hours a week, and a lot of people get burned out on it, and I don't blame them because it's not all glamorous. It's not all what the YouTube shows you'll find in tons of items. How many $3 to $5 profit items I put in a box a week? Like that's not it's not exciting to get excited about a $3 profit item that I got to put a label on, but that's the reality of the business.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything
And
else, Tom?
I think knowing what you want, I think that is kind of like I almost feel like almost people should be almost envious. You're like, oh, I work 20 hours a week. Like I make more than I was at my 9 to 5. I own my time. Like I don't want to grow more. And I think what people forget when you do grow more, growth comes with lots of headaches, lots of problems. Outsourcing and like a kind of the model you're doing is super difficult to do because it's very just manual. I mean, I had a lister and stuff like that, but then there's like issues with that. Like you got to get them the stuff, you got to get them equipment, and then there's just all sorts of issues that go into that as well. But I mean, I feel like everyone should almost strive for that too. And I think at the end of the day, it's like what you take home for sure. And if you could live with and are happy with you take home and that works for your life, I feel like you should do that. So I definitely get caught last year trying to play like the orange bar game and scale, scale, scale. And like I just ended up making a lot of stupid decisions. I mean, I was super profitable. Last year was my best year reselling,
He'll be
but
back.
So bad.
I think one of the most overrated things in reselling is getting a storage unit, right? Like you see these people on YouTube, you're like, I got a storage unit. And I remember I got my storage unit. I was like, I had so much swagger on me that week leading up. I'm like, damn, I'm about to be the hottest thing out there. And now I hate going to the storage unit. It sucks. Like even if it's climate control, which mine's isn't, like I got to go to this storage unit. It's 99 degrees outside. Like, but in the reselling world on YouTube, when it comes to eBay reselling or just book reselling, well, I got a storage unit. I'm so cool. Check me out. I'm like, it's the biggest overrated thing I've dealt with, since I started is having a storage unit or like, why don't you just buy truckloads of books? I'm like, it's like John said, you got to figure out who you want to be. Do you want to be in the books, 50 hours a week? Nah, I don't think so. It's not the life for me.
Yeah, that storage unit's awful, man. I got one. It was $120 a month when I signed up. It just got increased last week to $300 a month. I don't even sell shit anymore. I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm paying $4,000 a year for this storage unit that I hate going to. Every time I go in there, it gives me anxiety. I'm like, these are like all my losses from the past, like 20K in losses. I've cleared a lot of it out by now, but it's horrible going to that thing. I highly recommend never get a storage unit unless you absolutely have to. Like, if you have a bunch of stuff in your house, get rid of it. Like, sell it. Do not put it in a storage unit and pray that it's going to get better in a year. It's not. And do what you put it on there and undercut it. That's the best way to do it. I wish I would have done that instead of being like, well, I'll get to it one day. So hard to get back around to do it. And if there's no Wi-Fi in the storage unit, now you can't even list stuff in there. Mine doesn't have any service or anything. So I have to go in there and just hope that it loads, and it never does. So I get pissed and I leave. I'm like, I'll go back again. Never gets better. It's climate controlled at least, but man, storage units are brutal.
I agree on that as well.
It's a badge of honor though. You said you had a storage unit as a reseller. I feel like there should be like some kind of official like rules and regulations of reselling, like almost the baby steps of reselling. Like in step one, step two, sooner or later you got to have some kind of dedicated space, or like you've never really made it. And if I had a house, I would never even had a storage unit to begin with. But for the longest time, I was right out on the sidewalk. I do a bulk pickup, no matter how hot it was, like pop up tent. Boom, I'm sorting right on the sidewalk. I don't care. I got books all over the place. You can walk past where my apartment complex, and good luck. You better be watching where you're walking because I got stacks of books all over you. But it's not cool to say when I'm on the sidewalk sorting books versus, hey guys, I'm at my storage unit. I'm official now. I made it.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Got anything else, Chum?
Last question. Would you recommend someone start a book business right now?
Think a lot of it is heavily dependent on your location. You need sources to make this business work. Now, if you live out in the middle of nowhere and you got 3 little thrift stores, I hate to break it to you, this business model is not going to work. It's heavily reliant on scanning tens of thousands of fresh inventory over the month, over the year, hundred thousands of inventory over the year. So if you don't have the sources around you and you're not willing to build the connections, then the business model just isn't for you. Now, if you live in a heavily, dense location, a city, and you're willing to drive a little bit, right? Like my kind of driving limit. I know John used to drive exuberant amounts. Yeah. I was not on John's level by any means. I'll drive an hour and 15 minutes one way is my cutoff, right? How far were you driving, John? You're probably driving like 3 hours, weren't you?
Oh yeah, I would make like long road trips out of it and stay overnight and do stuff like that.
See, that's real dedication. But for somebody like myself who hates driving, hour 15 minutes one way. So think about this. I have about 100 different sources. If I factor in pawn shops, libraries, thrift stores, anywhere you can find used media, I have about 100 sources in my area to get to where I am. And I'm out 2 days a week, basically 10-hour days, thrifting only, no lollygagging around. When I'm in a thrift store, I get in and out. I scan the media. I peace out. I'm not looking at other things, looking at the shirts, the shoes. It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of sources around you. So if you kind of live out in the middle of nowhere, I honestly think, starting an online arbitrage business or an E to A business is 100% feasible in today's world. With the resources we have, the groups like the one you run, I mean, it's all out there for you to start and avoid the mistakes we made when we first started these types of businesses, right? The mistakes I made when I first started books, the mistakes you made when you first started OA. So is it feasible to do? Yes. How much money can you make? just doing the business model I have, if you had, say you had an unlimited amount of thrift stores, maybe you had like 300, you live in a real big city, I think by yourself, you probably could run this up in a thrifting model, probably between like 25 and like 35K a month in sales. So I think you probably could bring home around, 15 to 20K a month if you did this 50, 60 hours a week, and if you had the sources to actually provide the amount of inventory, because we're talking tens of thousands of pieces you're going to have available for sale at any single time in Amazon. So it is feasible today. I have a lot of people in the group I have that are retired that make, an extra $1,000 a month. But, a lot of the older folk are more, I guess, money savvy. So they understand, okay, I just want to make an extra $500 a month, and they're fine with that. They're A-okay with that. So you have to ask yourself, how much money are you comfortable with making? How much money do you need to make to survive? And make the decision based off of that, what type of business model you want to get into. Because yes, having a passion about something will get you somewhere, but if the inventory is not there at the end of the day, your passion ain't going to get you nowhere in the business. Like if you're really passionate about selling, vintage t-shirts, but every thrift store I go to don't have vintage t-shirts, then I'm never going to be able to have an actual business based off of that. So it's heavily dependent on where you're at and what you want out of your business when it comes to income and what kind of sources you have around you. Do the research before you decide to dump any type of money into whatever business you start, and reach out to people like John and Drew and myself and get a real picture of what the business actually looks like when it comes to the bottom line and the profit and loss statement at the end of each month.
Cool deal. Where can people find you?
YouTube, the Used Book Guy, Twitter, Instagram. I finally got an Instagram after years. I remember John's like, you got Instagram? I'm like, no, dude, what's that? Facebook, everything's the Used Book Guy. And yeah, I'm like John. I kind of run a small group over on the YouTube channel. It's only $2.99 a month. John's cheap at $15. I'm cheaper at $2.99 a month. But it's just for media sellers on Amazon. So we have like a Discord, and we do weekly Zoom calls and kind of help people make more money. That's the whole reason we have these groups. We're not getting rich off these things. Me and John aren't retiring off of the group income we have. It's to help other people get out of the situations we were in. John was in a job where he didn't like. I hated CVS. We both split out of there, built these businesses, and that's all we try to do is help other people do the kind of the same thing.
Cool deal. Well, thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Go give Mike a follow, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Peace.